do some stuff today. We got a late night comer here, and I've got some questions for you. I see you're already cooking up 40K stuff in the background there. See how I work the microwave and the stove into this? That's how I roll. Shitty old man puns to start. And I'm going to start because Alan stole my question the very last cast we were on, and I'm going to start with it because I want to heat up the 9th edition. I want some positive mojo. Right now, you're going to the Bradchester Invitational, the $1 billion Invitational next weekend. What are you bringing? And nothing that has rules weird. And don't say like Space Wolves because they're all OPSEC, which they won't be by then. Because the Bradchester $40 billion Invitational doesn't play by those silly rules.
So first of all, Death Guard. And second of all, is OPSEC like the new thing right now is just standing on objectives? Because I think Death Guard do that really well. Like Blight Lord Terminators, like Plague Marines. I was looking at the new Death Guard rules, right? And before Possessed, I was running a big Possessed bomb. Before Possessed, I was running a Plague Marine bomb. And they could output an insane amount of mortal wounds. I mean, I had 3 Plague Marines kill like a full repulsor once in a single turn of combat. So they got some new rules to make them pretty spicy. I think I like the bolt pistol that if it hits, it makes all weapons plague weapons, which, you reroll 1s to hit, but you can stack so many bonuses, which in turn with the psychic power, you can just pump out mortal wounds.
Yep.
So I would build Death Guard. That's what I'm going to build.
Let's start with that though, because I was hoping you were going to throw down that. So in your mind, like I've seen a couple of different lists where people are like a zillion Nurglings, 15 spawns, and then I see other lists though, and I'm a little bit more towards this because I like the output. I see other ones that are, 10 Blight Lords or 20 Plague Marines, which are looking to, run up there with warp time and basically skyhook in, a zillion grenades, especially, with those new blast rules, man. You're getting, you know what I mean? You hit a big unit, and all of a sudden you're getting max 6 per dude. And it's mortals on, because you can only do +1 to wound now. So we're doing mortals on 5s, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mortals on 5s. That's right. Can only get a max +1 wound, but still mortals on 5s with. So, yeah, what I would do is I would try out Plague Marines. I think those are going to be pretty solid, especially now that they can deep strike. Previously, they couldn't. Put them in reserve, drop them down wherever you want, basically. Buff them up to all hell. You can buff them up to T5, T6, T7, depends on what you want to add in there. Throw in some Plague Marines. I don't know that I would do. I would probably include the grenade bomb because it's so potent. Your opponent just has to watch out for it. Now you can increase the range of it.
Yeah, it dictates movement.
But
it does.
My thing is
it does.
The reason I like it a lot is just because it's the threat. And I'm not talking about the games. Because when you get into elite on elite, and more than anything, it's the threat. We're playing right now. It's you worrying about my threat, me worrying about your threat that dictates the game more than if you're playing against someone, and not making fun of any skill, but just like an elite level versus mid grade, you're already going to be making those other moves. But when it's almost like a high level chess match, just that my ability to do this completely changes your ability to move. I might take less objectives because I'm trying to box you out, trying to not get hit by those grenades. And be honest, if that happens twice, the game's probably over. If you able to get that off 2 times.
Oh yeah, I mean, and also Plague Marines. Not only are they nasty in shooting, for anyone that doesn't know, Plague Marines have a D6 frag grenade called a Blight Grenade, and it has a Plague Weapon rule. And there's a special character that gives them damage 2 and +1 strength on their grenades.
Yep.
As well, you can add Veterans of the Long War. He gives them mortal wounds on 6s. So you add Veterans of the Long War on top of that. You're looking at guys throwing D6 shots that do strength 4, 2 damage, mortal wounds on 5s that reroll 1s to hit with a +1 to wound. Each one of those guys, they can take out vehicles, they can take out big infantry squads, they can take out elite infantry. I mean, they're a real threat in shooting. And now they have better close combat. They were already insane in close combat. I took them 2 plague weapons, just no bolt guns, not going to mess with anything like that. 2 plague weapons, and they get 3 attacks on the charge with Hateful Assault. And they're hitting on 2s with Prescience, They're doing wounding on. They can get a plus. They can only get a +1 to win, but mortals on 5s, death of the false emperor.
On 5s.
Now they can get an extra +1 attack.
I really feel like their only real weakness is just ranged firepower, and even that they're so resilient that you really need to commit a lot of firepower to take them out.
At that point in time, you're popping them. I mean, you could make it. Depends how you run them. You could just run them with conceal and stuff if you want to do that too. So
exactly, and you take them Death Guard, they're obsec. So I mean, it's an objective
big win
what
for
I'm
them.
Hearing so far.
Yeah, I agree. I also like I think it's called the Blight Hauler, that little vehicle. I saw a list with a bunch of Blight Haulers in it, with the Nurgle Great Unclean One with the bell. He's just bringing them back.
Oh, man.
It's gross, man. The stuff you could do with that army is gross, because it's just everything is hard to kill. Everything has lethal potential range because the board is smaller now. 24 inches is no joke now. It's like the new 36.
Dude, in literally the last month, and I played a gazillion games a 9th now. I haven't brought a gun over 24 inches because it's such a kill zone. You have to basically you know your opponent has if you can only hit your opponent with long range weapons, who cares? You're already winning by 20.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any difference.
Such a win for assault armies. I mean, I think there were some wins and losses for assault armies going into 9th. I think slightly more losses than wins, because now fallback is really not such a game-winning move. I won so many games off of pinning one unit in combat.
But I always thought that was weak, really weak sauce, and I'm really excited the fact that leaving combat now is so detrimental. So even though you can't win the whole game by tying up a unit and having a 15-minute argument of whether or not you can make the wrap and they can't get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Now that argument is gone. We don't have to talk about it. Like, hey, I'm going to wrap this. If you got to get out, use a strat, whatever.
So big now, though,
but touching is just so big, and fly doesn't do anything.
You can literally lock down their toughest shooting unit by touching it all game long. And I do that all the time. You sacrifice a unit, but you're just grabbing, touching all game.
No Overwatch, and then also, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't shoot if you fall back. Is that right?
You can't do anything.
You can't do anything, even if you have fly.
But that is so huge.
Yeah, nothing. Zero.
In games, you literally just you basically sacrifice over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Something, and they can if they shoot in combat, but they have to shoot that unit. So who cares? Like take things like 5-man units, Outriders, whoever, and just continually touch whatever so that they're consistently have to fire at what I tell them to instead of what's standing on objectives.
Oh yeah, have you guys played any 9th games yet? Is this
a ton? Yeah. Well, Brad's actually a playtester, so he's been playing it for a while, and I've gotten in like a solid 15 games so far.
Oh my God, what the hell?
And I played I just had a weekend where I scheduled basically the maximum amount of people I could have at the local game store, and we just did a full weekend of gaming. Everybody else too, so everybody kind of just got jammed up on the rules.
Yep.
Dude, so it's probably an overworked topic, but how does that work with COVID? Like, are you guys wearing masks? Are you guys just keeping the store pretty small?
That's literally the first time I'd been to the store. Typically, I go to my buddy Jason Stogowski's.
I do it right here on this table in my house.
Yeah, he does the table at his house. Yeah. I literally go to one guy's house. Yeah. Also, luckily, also a playtester. So we've been able to play a lot of games. But the thing is, well, the problem is I didn't go anywhere for a long time because my health is somewhere between terrible and awful.
Yeah, no, so Aiden is just making a comment really quick, Brad, about how pretentious and just douchebaggy you playtesters are. You know, with all your nonsense.
I was pretentious and douchebaggy before I was ever a playtester. I was just continuing all my life.
Yeah, I know, but it's like flaring now. It's like you've always had herpes, but now that you're a playtester, it's fucking apparent. It's just always on. Yeah.
You know what I'm mad about? I'm legitimately mad that you get to play all of the rules like months before we get to play them.
No, it's actually not that great though. It's super hard. It's super hard, Aiden.
Because I get the rules before they're finalized, and because GW is so worried about leaks, I don't get the final version until you get it. So I've been playing with basically the wrong rules. And
he can't share it with anyone. He can't talk to anyone about it. Plus, he has to remember those rules in the back of his head while playing a new edition. And I can tell you from experience going to the ETC over in Europe, playing an edition that no longer exists because like 7th dropped and you're still playing 6th sucks. It's horrible.
You totally lose motivation to like be good at the game when you're.
Yeah, it's so bad.
I'm not gonna lie. I really, really like. I'm a little bummed because like they dropped the ball a little bit, and we already did this.
Don't get me started, bro.
But I like 9th edition so much more. I like what I like to call 8.5 more than I liked, that I really enjoy. But I think that the problem is that as much as the rules are polished, they didn't put everything else out. It's like you got this super sweet looking car, and like the engine inside's unbelievable, and they're like, oh yeah, we totally forgot to do any body work, and they put that sweet engine inside this 1970 Pinto or something, because we had some issues with mission. The missions are good. The missions aren't fleshed out. The missions are gonna be more. There's gonna be more secondary. Like basically, I want to fast forward the game to 6 months when you have multiple codices out, multiple extra secondaries out. Multiple. I was just like, I didn't know what the hell was going on. I was like, I just got some hairy ass
cat.
But,
It's a cat, bro.
Dude, yeah.
Relax, bro. Cats, whenever you sit at a desk, cats attack you. Brad is deathly allergic to cats, so he doesn't know anything about cats. He stays away from them.
You, Brad?
He's terrified. He might have an allergic reaction over the call just by seeing it.
Yeah, I was like, just the sheer sight of that cat made me have allergic reaction. Don't let me do that either. I've done that too. Come on. But no, but it's just I'm super excited for everything coming out, and I wish that everything was polished when they came out. You know what I mean? I don't understand. My only real complaint, I already brought this up, I'll just do it really quick because it's still kind of bitchy in my mind, is why aren't there more codex? But like basically, why aren't you like 9th edition codex, bam, go, have an exciting time.
Oh man, have you talked to you?
Especially like the Necron book. I mean, literally think about you're a Necron player. Everybody's telling you get a new codex. Everybody's talking about the Silent King. You have all these models that are coming out in Dominus, and they're like, oh yeah, you're going to get a codex, I don't know, sometime. And you're just kind of like, well, what the fuck, man? You know what I mean?
Oh man. It makes me think about codices that were written early in 8th edition, maybe mid in 8th edition, that are still not updated. Take like Chaos Space Marines, or take like Death Guard, or what, I don't know. I mean,
the original demons, their rules don't even work.
Demons suck. Demons codex is the worst. They need the codex. There must be mechanics.
Talk to me about that. What's going on with demons? Why don't they work?
It's just because if you go read the original demons, I know we've all read the updates and the FAQs and stuff like that. If you're like just a player that picks up the demon book right now, like a shit ton of your stuff in that book doesn't actually really work. Like we know it because we play.
There's just a bunch of FAQs on top of it.
But if you just read that book, you would just be like, oh, I'm going to do this. And then somebody would be like, okay, those 10 things you just tried to do, none of them worked.
I just had a tournament in January. I came to Toledo, where Brad is, for a tournament. And one of the guys there was using the Alpha Legion strategy, and the old one where you just picked up the unit and put it anywhere you wanted 9 inches away. And he was using that in a tournament in January. And he showed me the rule book. He's like, look, here's my codex.
Man.
He's like, here's my codex. This is how it works. And I'm like, no, bro, that rule got FAQ'd a while back. He's like, well, no, this is what's in the book. And I'm like, how long have you been playing for, bud? He's like, I just started. And like, so that example, that's like really apparent for other codexes. I mean, obviously Necron needs a new book just to be more competitive. I actually think personally Demons have a really good, I think, codex for 9th edition. I think monster-based armies. I talked to you, Aiden, about Slanesh. I talked to you about Slanesh, bro. Keeper of secrets, man. In a seeker's army, in a smaller board, get out of here, dude.
Dude, smaller board. Do you know what's terrifying? This is half the reason that I'm not taking. It's such a small reason, but like, besides the secondary that says if you don't have a psyker, you can just get 1,000,000 points if your opponent takes a bunch of psychers. But you know what just terrified me? A smaller board with the Lord of Change if you deny a power, it destroys it.
Yeah. If you deny a power, it's just gone for the game.
Dude, like that dude literally has, if you look at it, you can literally push him up right away because they're going to shoot him anyways.
He just blocks the whole board.
He just blocks the whole board from Psyche. Sure, like I go first, I advance and fly up and go, what? Cast anything, please.
Oh man, you can make that guy so survivable. -1 damage, you can get him +1 invuln, +2 invuln. Like that dude can be a 10.
Yeah, and he has positives to his psychic power too. So like when he goes for denying, he's got +2. He stops you, it's done. Power's gone.
What do you think? What do you think about that? What would you take if you were going to take that army right there? You're like, hey, I want to tell all psychers to go fuck themselves. I want to dominate the board, and I'm going to play demons. What kind of?
Stuff that's going to get in your face really quickly and not die. Lord of Change comes to mind. I think Bloodthirster, honestly, because of the new Exalted stratagems where the Bloodthirster is not going to die for at least 2 or 3 turns. 2 or 3 turns, that Bloodthirster is charging something really juicy.
He's making his points back. He's making his points back because he's just surviving for enough time.
I want to say I really like the idea of Monster Mash.
No, it's really good. It's really good. I'm telling you, I tried it out in one game. I loved it. It was fun too, which is awesome. I haven't had fun in 40K in a while.
Seriously, man, the models came out. They're so beautiful. They haven't seen a table in like a year, 2 years.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely.
But they look so sweet too. I mean, the rule cool also applies a lot too, man. I say that to a lot of people. I'm like, what do you like to play?
I say that all the time. That's my big pitch too, Brad. Same thing.
It's just you know what I mean. What makes it again? It's you're playing with toy soldiers, bro. You know what I mean. What you want to win, but also you want the cool shit. Also, if you're a painter and you just spent like forever on that large creature, you want to put that bad boy on the board, dude. You know what I mean. You want to make that shit happen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So Aiden, what are you most excited for about Ninth? What was your big thing, getting pumped for it, or that you're hoping for, or was excited for? Or walk us through it.
Honestly, I'm such a list builder, man. I love planning. I love calculating all the best units to take, best things to take. And they had this mold in 8th edition, and they totally just broke that mold open. The way command points worked in 8th edition, I had to center my army around command points. As I got better and better at 40K in the edition, the higher and higher my command point need was. So I was taking minimum 2 battalions, sometimes 3 battalions. I mean, all my armies toward the end of 8th edition had 3 battalions, which sucks if you have crappy troops. Chaos Cultists, not great troops.
It sucked even worse in ITC's format, right? You're just giving up kills.
You were giving up kill more.
It was unfortunate.
Time,
you're trying to get the currency to play a competitive army, but at the same time, you're giving up so much strategic, asset value. You're just literally giving your opponent points away by trying to go
change. It just makes list building and how you compose your army just so much infinitely better. You can do basically anything. Take any units you want without restrictions. Basically.
Yeah, command points essentially became a currency. And you could choose to use them however you'd like, and everyone starts off with the same currency to start with.
Now, I'm curious if elite armies benefited off this because they have generally lower command point stratagems, like Grey Knights, like Custodes.
Custodes feel a zillion times better than they did. I mean, they also got a good PA, so that was a combo. But I've only played with them a little bit, but like a bunch of friends of mine are all old school custodes, or at least they've had them sitting on the shelf for a long time, and they're dusting them off. And they're like we just talked. Robert was playing. He played that entire weekend over at the Swedes. One of our Swedish friends, has just been playing custodes, and it's so much different to go. All right, well, I have 12 CP to start the game with. So, what?
Charge you on your turn. Charge you on your turn. Charge you on.
Yeah, exactly.
And they got good strats. They got Dreadnought strats, they got Terminator strats, and they got bike strats in the Psychic Awakening. So it's like before, but that's the point though. Before, no matter how many good strats they got before in 8th edition, it would have made no difference because they have no CP.
Oh yeah. Oh, Alan and Brad, let me tell you what I'm also very excited about is that I have about 200 to 300 cultists that I painstakingly painted up before contrast paints. And I had to push those models around like 150 at a time each turn in the movement phase, and then in the psychic phase, and then in the assault phase, and then do it all again the next turn, every single tournament. I'm so excited to just throw my Chaos Cultists out the window. Like, oh man, I just fuck those cultists. Seriously.
I feel you so much because for 3 years I played Horde armies. One of them was Chaos with cultists and stuff. It's actually what I took to ETC one of the years, and I literally couldn't do it without help.
Man.
It's a lot. Yeah, I do actually think that there will be some Horde armies in the new 9th edition that will have a pretty good advantage, though. Because morale,
what do you guys think of orcs?
I think orcs are very strong. I think they're very strong.
It's just different.
It's
different, though.
It's a different approach.
They're kind of my side chick right now. I'm building that orc army. I think every Chaos player at heart has some orc in them. So
sounds like me right there.
Yeah, man.
I'm a historically Khorne player who just has a ton of orcs on the side. Or an orc player who has a ton of Khorne on the side.
I was about to say more. I don't know, man. You've got all of the orc stuff.
Yeah, I have both of those stuffs, Khorne and orcs. But
so
but no,
orcs got going for him.
So I think morale is a big boost to them, right? You don't lose the unit anymore, so morale's a big deal. I think that's one because I think orc units that you had a 30-man blob and you lost 20 of them, you're pretty much screwed. But now now they got to kill him basically to the last man. You know, if you have 4 orcs left alive, there's a good chance 1 orc will live after morale from shooting.
Yeah.
So I just basically look at my opponent and I just bring back the whole unit. So I love that. That's really cool.
The jump.
I mean, the jump is still fantastic in the new form.
I was in the new form.
In the new format, it's so good. So good. I think we took a huge hit in losing the shock attack gun. But we make up for it with other things. I think the army is designed to be a resilient MSU-based high wound count army. I don't necessarily think you should go to a horde approach, but I think 2 units of 30 guys is a pretty good start to any list with a couple weird boys. And then you can really go, and then you can really go a lot of different directions. You can go a lot of directions. You can go Mega Knobs for sure because they have the resilience that you need with the list. And they're gross as hell with a lot of things. You can go with tank busters inside of vehicles. You can go with tank busters dropping from the sky. Doesn't really matter, however you want to play it. In a tank heavy meta, which is what I anticipate we'll get to. I mean, unfortunately, there's no tournaments, but in a tank heavy meta, if that's where we got, tank busters they're gonna shine. They're fantastic. So.
I like the idea of, because of the fact you get a smaller board, you have to take the objectives. And the fact that Mega Knobs just didn't go up in points very much, their efficiency was pretty good.
Yeah.
Them just literally standing behind anything, taking an objective, kind of just going, go ahead, come somewhere near here and take this from me.
Yeah.
Feels really good, man.
Yeah, they're really solid.
It's so fun playing with these beefy elite units. I definitely envy Custodians, Grey Knights, but like Mega Knobs, Chaos Terminators, Blightlord Terminators, they're so fun to play with, man.
I think Blightlord Terminators are going to be nuts, dude.
Yeah, but
those are terrifying.
They're fun models too. I have 15 Blightlord Terminators, and I have a bunch of Forge World like Nurgle stuff that I've been meaning to get painted up. Forge World Nurgle Terminators, like the old pre-heresy version ones. I got a ton of them. Can't wait to get them going. So.
Oh yeah, Blightlords are such cool models, man.
Yeah.
Especially the Horus Heresy.
Yeah, no, I think orcs definitely have legs. Mech guns have legs. I think they're really solid. I think smash guns are probably still fantastic. I don't think the points changes are really the big deal. They're like 40 points now instead of like 30. So it's not that big of a deal. I think actually the fact that they can move and fire is crazy. Just way better than anything we've seen before. Given that they're hitting on 4s, it's just gross. And you're gonna get a lot of CP with orcs still. So. You still have a ton of CP. You just got to pick out. You just got to, because you're limited to a clan. I think that's the only thing really, other than the shock attack gun, that super hurts orcs. You can't go with this super hybrid approach. I mean, it's not really beneficial to. So.
I was say, but to hurt that much now, it's more like you have to get an approach and go with it. I guess you can't just completely go best of both worlds.
Correct. But. Yeah, you got to go with an approach. So you got to pick kind of how you want to play it. And just play it that way. I'm really pissed off that Flash Kits got such a hike in points.
What was that deal, man?
They're basically not playable now.
That played them in the world.
Yeah,
there was that good. Like,
they were fantastic, but there was only 3 of us playing them for 24 points. They were awesome. They were awesome for 24.
They literally, I didn't see. I played them at Nova with the army Alan sent me.
My box army came to you. Full box army. Here you go.
That's a real story, by the way. I had been no, seriously. I had like literally never. We decided on the way home from ETC, what we wanted to play, and Alan and I flew together, and then I went to Chicago. We're like figured out a list. All right, cool. I'm gonna play that list. All right. Do you have all these models? Yes. He mails them to me. I take the box that he mailed, set it in my car, drove to Nova, picked it up the morning of the tournament, and was just like, I hope this shit's all here.
Oh my God.
And I hope I figure out the rules by the time it's good to go.
How'd you do with that? Did you
He crushed everybody, but then he ran into Andrew Gagno, and I don't know what happened. The army that he was destined to beat, like on paper, I would never lose to Andrew Gagno's army with that army. With the army Brad took, I would never lose. Supposedly, Brad had bad dice.
Almost like Reed after I went first. I swear to God, we were just talking about it. He's just like, I was talking to everybody, and they were like, everybody went, well, if he goes first, you should shake his hand and just not waste any time.
No, it's an auto win. It's an auto win.
I went first, and I killed zero anything on turn 1.
Oh, man.
It was impressive.
You know what I did, Aiden? I looked on
you didn't believe me.
Best Coast Pairings, and I was like, oh, he's playing Gagno. I looked at Gagno's army, and I'm like, oh, Brad won 7th round. Awesome. He's going to go to the finals. And then I got a text from Brad saying I lost. And I'm like, haha, very funny. I literally texted him, haha, very funny.
That's a joke.
And he's like, no, I seriously lost. Fuck you. And I'm like,
oh man.
I'm like, how could you possibly lose that game? I don't understand. I'm so confused.
And fuck Andrew Gagnon. I love that guy. He's such an amazing guy. I've got beef with him though because of scenarios exactly like that, dude. Like this man will lose the game on the first turn and then win the game the next 5 turns. Like, oh man, he's such a good player.
It's funny, man. So I think Brad's kicking himself for that one. But yeah, no, I don't understand why Flash Gets went up. But overall, I think Oryx definitely have legs in 9th for sure. We've been talking about it earlier. One of the things we had as a missed opportunity, I know Brad mentioned it, is just the mission complexity. Right now, the missions seem very stale. Which is unfortunate, and I hope it doesn't lead to kind of like a meta where everyone's playing generally the same thing, like Grey Knights in 5th or something like that. I hope it is more diverse and dynamic, and I hope they do make some changes that incorporate things like kill points or Maelstrom cards or something where we have to.
It's so small. You just
like end game.
You literally need any one addition. Basically, again, we already went off on this. Just play the ETC missions, but if you're not going to do that, add any element. Add some sort of end game, add kill points, add something that makes you make more decisions. Basically, I do.
We're talking about sorry to interrupt, but we're talking about the book missions. Or is the ITC going to step in and make their own modified missions like they have?
No, they're running these.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
They're all because they were part of the generation of that. So they.
Yeah.
The thing is like I actually think that the missions are going to be fine. Eventually, the problem is the issue right now is that we're basically getting, the opening salvo of missions. Once we get,
I mean, there's 18 of them, Brad, and there's no diversity in any of them. There's like 6 incursion missions, 6 strike force missions, and there's
the strike force is what we're playing. Strike force is for 2,000 points.
Yeah. So all the strike missions are pretty much the same. Like they really need to change those. I mean, all the missions in general in this entire book are pretty much the same. But
you need something extra. You just need something else.
Yeah.
You need a kill point. You need a whatever. You know what I mean?
Surprisingly, Aiden, I would consider that the ITC missions were actually less, in my opinion, less dynamic than these missions in this book. And I think these missions are not enough. So I need more.
No kidding.
Yeah, here's why. I'll explain why. So if you read these missions, you start playing them, you're gonna first read them and you're gonna say, oh, it's all the same crap, right? Same primary over and over and over and over. The secondaries seem kind of weird, but when you start actually playing it, you will see within a couple games that the new missions in 9th edition absolutely force interaction. Without a doubt. Okay, they might not give you points. They might not give you points for killing a unit, but if you're not actively killing units, if you're not actively taking the board, and if you're not actively pushing on your opponent and getting in their space, you're losing. Period. End of story. Like you're 100% losing.
So in games I've literally won multiple games where I'm just getting pound town, but I'm consistently trading objectives. I'm running up and I'm putting OBSEC on your objectives, so you're not scoring it next turn. It's tactically doing stuff.
Even though ITC had kill as a part of the mission criteria, and this doesn't, right? This seems like it has less. In actuality, it was very common for an ITC game to be like, I have my base, you have your base. We're going to sit on both sides, and we're going to figure out who nudges out the win by a couple points.
Oh man,
this new edition is not like that at all. So this new edition definitely, in my opinion, all the shit I give GW, they've definitely done a better job than ITC missions for sure. But I think they're missing a lot of opportunity to ensure that the meta is complex. My concern with their approach is that the meta, good players like us on this call and others that we know of, are going to design lists that are tailored to essentially play these missions specifically. And it'll be very difficult. Once the meta gets mature, it'll be very difficult to keep up with it for other people.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like it's interesting interactions. You talk about 8th edition, how players could essentially set up a base on a single objective and just get kill more and win the game. That's just like how 8th edition. That was such a stale way to play the game, especially as someone who played an assault army. It's just you sit across from a shooting army who's not going to move any closer to you, sitting in the very farthest corner of the board on a single objective, who's just killing more units every turn. It's like I don't know. Such a
it's so good. Now, I love the fact that you just have to engage.
You have to. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not because you have to take objectives. You have to deny objectives, or your opponent's just scoring. You have to, and the board's smaller too. You literally engaging. Basically, you going up to take the objectives on a smaller board just forces engagement to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I mean, I'm ready for. I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want a couple tournaments to happen so people will bitch less once we just put more games in and see different things. I think everybody everybody gets bitchy about
nobody's ever gonna bitch
whatsoever.
less.
Yeah.
That's I said
Nobody's
that's
bitching
true.
less, bro.
But I'm saying once you start hitting tournaments though and seeing like, oh, I'm actually doing something. I mean, I'm sure that some people will be like, I love sitting there and doing fucking nothing, you know. But I think the majority of people.
Yeah, we just had a call with Nick Rose. Nick Rose is like, I designed a list that doesn't die. It's a bunch of nurglings and some spawns and stuff, and I don't have to shoot a single bullet, and I'm going to win the game. And I'm like, no, you're not, because I wrote a list with 6 Toroxes and a bunch of Custodes, and I'm going to table you. So.
Because he told me about what he's playing with Molly, and he's like, yeah, man, like we're just whichever one of us is just if we go first, we're gonna win. You're like, and I go, what kind of terrain are you playing on? He's like, he's explaining it. I'm like,
playing on Ben's coffee table.
Playing bowling ball, you probably make a difference, man. Of course, whoever goes first is shooting the other guy. You're on a smaller board, nothing to hide behind.
That's wrong.
Well, the best part of what he said was he first started off by saying that we need good terrain, and then he said, but if you go first, you just auto win. And I'm like, no, those things go hand in hand. If you have good terrain, going first means a lot less. If you have bad terrain, then going first is obviously going to have an advantage because the game now 36 inches is the new 48. So yes,
that was the best line said today, and I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I'm gonna borrow that line later. I'm gonna go to my wife and be like, hey, I heard 6 inches is the new 12. That's what I heard. see what she says. I don't know if she'll agree.
Look at it from the right light.
I'll try my best.
You gotta make the board smaller, dude. Make the board
I gotta make the board smaller.
Yeah,
just
dude, like
shrink my hand.
But so what do you got brewing in the mix right now? I mean, you know what you're taking to the Bradchester Invitational.
He's got some orcs going on. I heard that. I heard orcs and chaos.
You thinking about for like basically you got next till LVO. You probably got to tell LVO to get a big tournament. You'll probably get some small ones.
If LVO happens.
LVO is going to happen because Nevada like literally gives no fucks. They have open casinos right now, dude. They obviously don't give a shit what's going on.
Open casinos.
They literally are burning people. I'm pretty sure they're throwing people in furnaces to heat the casinos. They do not care. So LVO's happening.
As an aside, they had the I don't know if you guys got into Tabletop Simulator. That was like a big push. I always wanted it to be a thing. It was a big push at the start of coronavirus. Like, oh, Tabletop Simulator is the answer. We can throw tournaments. We can have games. We can do practice games. You can do it in your own living room. You don't need to leave. You can build any army you want. I just never really got into it. I tried it a handful of times, and I didn't really stick with me.
Preaching to the choir, bro.
Yeah. Like,
I got so bummed about TTS stuff, and then I went with my first time that I went, actually went back over to my buddy Jason's house, and I'm sitting there, and his woman like made a bunch of tacos. We're sitting down there, and we had
playing a real game in real life.
And we're playing, and I was like, oh yeah,
this game's fun.
40K. Yeah. Playing, having fun, enjoying myself, talking to my friends, like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
so
if you're playing Assault, especially like you're an Assault type player, you can't get the intricacies of your movements in TTS.
None of them.
Completely done.
Yeah, none of them.
If you're playing a shooting army, fine, but like you can't get those movements that actually matter. Those traps, those small moves, behind using terrain, people specifically getting you distances.
People trying to play TTS forgot the why the game is fun, and just like you wouldn't play Monopoly on a computer, you wouldn't play 40K in a computer, right? You want to touch that little metal horse with the guy on top. You want to take the physical money from your uncle and watch his face cry as he's paying for rent on Boardwalk. You want to see Nana fucking broken because you landed on free parking and she just doesn't know what to do with herself anymore because you own every fucking hotel on the board.
Monopoly is a cancer of a game.
I'm telling you.
The game's going to go on for like 4 hours.
Forever.
No one's ever losing for 3 hours straight.
But the point of it is nobody's playing it online. Right?
Yes.
That's why you don't play 40K online either. You don't play 40K on a computer.
Model, dude, but like seriously, it's
you gotta touch the models. I gotta look my opponent in the eye. I gotta drink a beer. I gotta have some fun, man.
I'm saying like it's so much cooler if you bring like that cool new Lord of Change and you're like, I'm dispelling and shit, and that guy's badass. You know what I mean? If in TTS he's a lump of yellow, you know what I mean?
There's
Like
there's
nothing.
something about our game. Our game is a unique game, right? There's a lot of people I know who do competitive gaming, like they play competitive Call of Duty or competitive Fortnite. I have a friend who's really close by. We went to high school together. He's formerly one of the most famous Fortnite players of all time, and he went to Glenview High School right down the block. And I know him really well. And when he sees a 40K model, he's like, "Wow, so cool, way cooler than any video game because it's in front of me. It's real." I think people are missing that with TTS, and that's really the drive for it. I think anyone who's playing the game.
It's hobby. It's kind of an art. It's a fun thing to create and touch and build and paint.
Exactly. Seeing display boards. There's even creativism in army lists. Like when I saw your list at LVO, I went on Facebook immediately, and I'm like, Aiden Barkley has the best list I ever saw. Like, this is amazing. Like I was all over the place. I found you at the event too, and I'm like, dude, I think I reached out to you too before LVO. I'm like, yo, your list is disgusting. Like it is the best ever, like attempt at a possessed bomb. I love that army. The layers of complexity you had in there. I know, Brad. I'm sure I told you about this. I think we have a podcast where I was talking all about his list actually, but we were talking about he had a double possessed bomb with Slanesh and an Emperor's Children detachment where he's guaranteeing that 6 charge. It was just sexy. Everything about it was sexy. It had layers on layers on layers. It was nice.
It's half the reason.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Many hours went into building that list.
It's half the reason I ended up staying with Raven Guard is just to kill all those characters.
Yeah, I really just like Raven Guard. Speaking of characters, anyway, that was a huge fucking aside, like a monstrous aside. Speaking of characters, my list building now changes so much because Chaos was so dependent on characters in 8th edition and 7th, and basically all the editions.
Yeah.
And characters now have a much harder time staying alive. Like you can say, oh, just take a jump pack. You can stay up with your squads, but
nope.
I don't know, man.
Dude,
it's a stepping stone.
I literally stopped playing Craft World Eldar at all during coming up into this testing because all I was doing was getting my characters just nuked all the time. Either that or you nerf your army by effectively babysitting characters, and then those guys aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And your units are not, exactly. That's the kind of the problem with Chaos is we're such a character-heavy build. I mean, you think about Chaos, you think about all the Thousand Sun Psychers, you think about all the Smash Lords, all the contorted epitomes, all the heralds. I mean, Chaos was built around characters. Characters won Chaos games for the past edition. So I think my list building is really going to change. So that's the thing I'm thinking about.
I think that's actually 100% what GW wanted to do, Aiden. I think that the 9th edition rules of how characters are going to get sniped out and the rules for additional resources near your character to not be fired is a stepping stone to 10th edition, where it will be like Age of Sigmar, where you can shoot any character you want. It's just -1 to hit them. I honestly feel like that's where the game is going to go, because I think that's like a working model they have. I like it a lot in Sigmar because it makes people play with their full army together and less reliant on a single character, a single bubble. I really like that approach.
I mean, I complain, I bitch about 8th edition gun lines sitting on a single objective and then getting kill more, basically forcing no interaction, you have no option to win the game is what I'm saying. But my army won by, I throw a unit up, pin a unit in combat, and then I'd have 8 to 9 characters in the middle of the board. You could not interact with my army. And that's, I understand the change.
A lot of the same stuff.
A little salty.
Yeah. I can see the salt.
It's funny.
I can see the salt, but at least you're aware of it. At least you're aware. That's the first step.
The funny thing is, you're going to get to where I am and trying to build on it. I started to literally make, I only put characters in my armies now that interact with multiple units and hang out with them the entire game. Like just auras, chaplains, like just
chaplain with Death Company chaplain.
Just like dudes that come literally just are interacting with multiple units all game long. So I never feel like I'm babysitting anybody. And I cut down on them because of the fact that, Headhunter is one of the big, you can get 15 points easy if you bring a bunch of characters with the secondaries right now.
Yep.
So it's one of those things I just didn't want to give up for buffs that I may or may not have to have. But I also bring more units. So there's up and down on that.
Aiden, it's also hard for orcs too.
Good.
Orcs are really character aligned as well. So
character reliant, absolutely, man.
So it's
and I was thinking about some of the lists I was going to build, and new chaos factions in Vigilus Ablaze and their new Psychic Awakening, they got a lot of depth in their characters. Their units somewhat, I mean, you think about the characters you can build with Chaos Space Marines. Word Bearers alone can have
Awesome
Armon,
stuff.
they can have a Smash Lord, they can have a Contorted Epitome, they can have X, Y, and Z with their characters alone.
Yep.
So I was really looking forward to, I think I still will include 1 or 2 key characters, but the amount of characters I'm having is definitely going to decrease.
Yeah, I think the contorted epiphany is amazing. So I think that in the new edition is just hilarious. Anything that breaks the edition, anything that people are not prepared for is awesome. And I think that along with other things that I think, like always striking first, Slanesh, stuff that people can't really
things go.
Yeah, stuff that people can't really anticipate, right? They're not planning for it because it's not every army, it's one army, right? It's like it's an offshoot, right?
Yeah.
I think that kind of stuff is great.
Yeah,
really
I think I'm definitely going to include Contorted Epitome or a Word Bearer's Contorted Epitome budget. I think that's definitely, because that's something that everyone's like, oh, you trapped my unit. I'm expecting to fall back with my front unit, and I'm still going to shoot all my army at you, at that unit you trapped. But Contorted Epitome or Word Bearers with the Ashen Axe is going to be it's going to change the way your opponent plays.
Yep.
You're going to be a lot more cagey. You're going to be a lot more hesitant to interact with. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also a rumor going around. I know Brad can't mention it in this, but there is a rumor going around that Heretic Astartes Marines will all be getting +1 wounds soon.
That would be absolutely wonderful, especially the specialist troops.
Yep,
World
all
Eaters,
of them.
like Khorne Berserkers.
All of them.
Oh man, that's a dream come true.
Yep.
Oh,
Adeptus Astartes, both Adeptus Astartes and Heretic Astartes, not Primaris. Just the Adeptus Astartes and Heretic Astartes +1 wound across the board. That's what we're hearing.
My thing is, my biggest thing is what I think would even the game a lot and make things not so spiky and people get pissed off about something. But imagine if every army had something they could take as OBSEC and troops that's just good. Because right now, that literally, Marines don't have the best of everything. They just have the best, by far, OBSEC models. Well, besides Custodes, which everything's OBSEC, but as far as, your regular troop choices, you know what I mean? They just bring the most of the game. They've got the only forward deploying still that do out of that, that have still the old school, I'm able to deploy wherever. They're all 2 wounds with a good save, with good combat output. Think about how much more you'd like to play your army if, every single time you put it on there, you're always putting an Emperor's Children model and whatever that has 2 wounds, that you know what I mean, 1,000 Suns, a good unit that's your troop, that's an OBSEC. You know what I mean? When you bring your core, you're not pissed off because you're going fucking 3 units of cultists. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That is the worst. That is the worst. If you're putting down something good, it just feels better. You don't have any chaff in your army for no reason.
Yeah. Other than some of the stuff we already talked about, Aiden, do you think are you disappointed with anything? You can either talk about being disappointed about something or being super excited about something. But I'm just curious if you anything else you think they missed in 9th edition that we haven't touched on yet.
9th edition is a solid step above. I think it's going to take probably a couple months before we know what the flaws are, what the true flaws are. Everyone's complaining about whatever on the first day. That's fine. But I think so far it looks like they rounded out a lot of my gripes with 8th edition. Didn't like how stale it was, didn't like the list building was constricted, didn't like the interaction. Yeah, I really, really enjoy what they've changed so far. Looking forward to getting 100 games in.
Where are you now, by the way? Like, where do you live? I can't remember where you live.
Was in Kansas City, now I moved to Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, all right. There's a big
Do you
group
guys
out
ever
there.
visit the East Coast? Huge scene in Richmond, Virginia. They got one of the best battlegrounds, RVA. They got one of the best stores on the East Coast.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the East Coast has always been historically a very, very good 40K location.
40K.
The Midwest has always been the worst, and the East Coast has always pretty much been, I would say, the best.
Whoa! You're not gonna tell me the West Coast is better than my Midwest boys.
I mean, as far as the scene goes, I'm not talking about playing wise. Playing wise, the Midwest is probably the strongest per capita. So I mean, I think the Midwest has the best players overall. In terms of just like number of good players versus number of total players. But I would say that as far as a community goes, our Midwest community kind of sucks, to be honest. It's hard.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
It's hard to get anywhere. It's hard to go to
jealous of
tournaments.
The East and the West Coast.
Yeah.
There's so many more tournaments.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult for
man.
us. I don't have very many local tournaments by me, especially with COVID right now. We have none, 0. But even the ones that we do, when we do have tournaments, they're few and far in between.
I drive a lot too just to get my
and we have to drive pretty far. Same thing. Like if I want to get a solid game in, I pretty much have to go by Brad or reach out to a couple key people in my local area. But they're not gonna. I don't have any guarantee of seeing them at an event. So it's a little bit difficult. So yeah, definitely jealous of your area. You can get in some solid quality.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what's funny? I was in Kansas City looking for a job, and one of the factors I was legitimately considering, was what is the Warhammer scene like in the city that I'm moving to? And the Warhammer scene in Richmond was great. And so that was like one of the defining factors why I picked Richmond, Virginia.
That's hilarious. I mean, I remember you when you probably lived over there in Kansas because you came to Dragonfall, I think that's where I first played you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
And Brad, I walked up to the table and I'm like, okay, you know, some guy, I don't know who he is, so I'm just gonna win automatically. And I run into Aiden and I walk away going, who the fuck is this guy, bro? He played this game flawlessly. I don't know how I squeaked out the smallest of wins in the world, like a 1-point win or something. But it was sheer luck, dude. Like sheer luck. I was totally unprepared to play anybody of his caliber, and I just walked away going, dude, you're gonna be like fucking amazing at this game. I don't know who you are. I don't know how long you've been playing, but you're going to be amazing. And I walked away thinking that to this day. So I did good overall, I think, at the end of that. Yeah, no, it was awesome, dude. I mean, I played Ryan Olsen after you, or Trent Nordington, one of those two guys. I think whoever I played after our game won the whole tournament because I think they tied. I drew them. I got a draw against them or something, and then I think either Trent won because I got a draw, or Ryan won because of the draw. I can't remember exactly, but nowhere near strategically as close to the game I played with you. It was tight. The whole game was tight. Movement was tight. I mean, you were going really like in depth on like how to move the units and how to wrap things and how all of it works. I'm just like, man, this guy's schooling me right now. I'm getting schooled. And I walked up to the table not even knowing.
I mean, that was one of my strengths in Ace Edition, was knowing all the tactical maneuvers you could do to try to pin a unit in combat, or to make a unit not fall back, or to stop a unit from shooting, or to block movement. That was very much my strength, and it all depended upon these little tiny rules in 8th edition about movement and charging, consolidating.
Yeah,
made, in 9th edition, they made very small changes that are going to have extreme impacts on how assault armies function and how these little tactical maneuvers
You have to plan. I think that you're actually going to be rewarded more, but you have to be planned farther ahead. And you're rewarded a little bit more, but you're also punished way harder, because if you screw up and you don't anticipate movements, you get really rocked for it. But I do feel you get rewarded a little bit more, because you can shut down somebody's army completely now, just by touching variety of units and basically dictating where they shoot, and all of a sudden you're just ahead really big. But if you because you have to make the charge, you can't just declare everything and double fight your way through and things of that nature.
Yep.
You have to make better. You have to deploy better. You have to make your moves a little bit better, precise as far as where you're anticipating you want to be. Because if you mess up a movement and all of a sudden you're 2 or 3 inches wrong, that might be the difference between making the assault and then getting the consolidate, and that could be the whole game, as opposed to going, I'm going to make this initial charge and then double fight and move back and everything else. You're just not doing that anymore.
Yeah, Brad.
Which I like, though, because it's just, I mean, it does make you. It rewards good, solid movement. If you outmaneuver your opponent, you're probably going to win.
It's solid feedback for anybody listening to the cast. I know Aiden's not going to make any of those mistakes. To put it in perspective, Brad, I think Aiden is basically like the closest person I've ever played from a technical perspective to Nathan, if not better, to be honest. In terms of just technical like efficiency, like just being very precise and all that stuff, and like also being a classy dude, like a gentleman at the table, pointing out that you're wrong. Like he just told me, like, no, you got the rule wrong. This is how he moves. This is what you got to do. And I'm like, oh, if that's the way it works, then yeah, you're good, And like he did it the right way, He did it the way I used to do it back in the day, where I knew I'm right, but before I like tell my opponent that they're an idiot, I go, hey, why don't we come together and just look at the rule book real quick, and let's just open it up to this page right here, and let's read this.
You're looking at it just like, let me recite this from memory, dude. Yeah, you're fucking wrong.
Yeah, no,
I'm old, and I'm pretty sure I'm always gonna get something wrong, so I never have to do that. I'm like, let's look together, because I'm no longer sure that I'm right.
Yeah. No, me and Brad have the opposite game. We have the opposite game of the game me and you had. Brad and I have a game of pure intent. It's hilarious. Brad's like, I'm gonna cast a psychic power. I'm like, you're just inside of Psychic Deny. Did you want to do that? No. Okay, cool. Back them up. we just keep rolling.
We do
man.
all the concepts. I was like, I'm going to shoot you with this unit that's still behind this wall, but I'm going to shoot anyways because I'm supposed to be over here. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. You already said you're trying to do that. I don't give a shit. I know what you're trying to do.
Our games are funny, man. But anyways, I think overall, Aiden, my vibe that I'm getting from you is you're just generally excited for the edition change, excited for the new structure, excited for just some changes, some shake up to the game. So that sounds good to us too.
Yeah, it's gonna take me a little bit. I think my advice to anyone listening to this podcast, if you want to get better, I'm not going to tell you how to win the game. Is just play a lot right now, because now is when the time is. Everyone's learning. You're going to make the largest improvements by just playing a lot.
Yep, there you go. I think that's a good way to end this one. So, Brad, any comments from you before I kick it off?
Just my usual. Play by intent. Roll your dice in the open, baby. 40K Jeebus will make all your dreams come true, baby.
Did you say Jeebus?